Manga comes to talk, and I'll start the mainstream up in just a moment. And of course, we're going to talk about everything that's going on with Bongino, Kash, Patel, Pam Bondi, and the White House press conference with Carolyn Leavitt. This whole issue came up today, so that's something we are most definitely going to cover. If you're new, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And when I start my next stream up in just a moment, I'll be taking live calls. And if you want to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat. All right, let's go. All right, here we go. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for joining. All right, we're going to cover the big story of the day because there's been some developments throughout the day. And this, of course, is the big release from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino at the FBI about the Epstein findings. And I was waiting to go live until after the White House press briefing because I was assuming that this was going to come up in the White House press briefing. It did. I'm going to play the exchange with Carolyn Leavitt in the White House press briefing in just a moment. And if you're watching live, you can call me live on the program. The number is pinned in the live chat, and I'd very much be interested in hearing your thoughts on everything that's been going on. And I'm going to start just by playing the uninterrupted exchange with Carolyn Leavitt. There are two reporters. One, I'm not sure who this guy is, that started it, and then Ducey from Fox News came in. So let me play this, and then we'll get into it. Right. Okay. All right. So that was the exchange today at the White House press briefing. So let's talk about this. You know, regardless of what your position on the Epstein list and files may be, I think there's something we can all agree on about the way this came down. And I'm going to play some of the interviews that Bongino and Kash Patel have done over the past few months, including the one that really started this is when Kash Patel and Bongino went on Bartiromo on Fox's show a few months ago and talked about it, where they look like hostage videos. Dan Bongino, who's been on television for years, was sweating like nobody's business. And of course, I'll play the clips of Pam Bondi that are in question too about this. But here's the thing. Regardless, because there's different schools of thought on the Epstein list and the Epstein files, but something stinks here. Something stinks here. And there's a lot of things about it that stink. And I want to go through it and break it down. And again, you're welcome to call me if you're watching live. The number is pinned in the live chat. The number is toll free 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. Toll free no matter where you're watching me. Okay, so here's the thing. This is a big story. The whole Epstein story has been a big story for many years. I live in Florida. I'm in Florida. Like the president, Kash Patel lives in Florida. Pam Bondi's from Florida. Many years before any of you heard of Jeffrey Epstein, he was in the news each and every day here in Florida because he was in court in Florida so much. So I've been hearing about Epstein, I don't know how long. Has it been 20 years now? 15 years? 20 years? I don't know. It's been a long time because he was in the local news so much before it became national of a story. This story is one of the biggest stories in politics in the last 15 or 20 years without question. And what Kash Patel and Bongino did at the FBI was release what's being referred to as a memorandum saying there's no suspicion with his death and nothing to see here and there's no list. Here's a memo. Why would you release just a memorandum without a press conference or anything on a story that is so big and so important to so many people in the country, but certainly in the MAGA movement of President Trump's, who are responsible for Kash Patel and Dan Bongino being household names? If Kash Patel would have had a press conference with Bongino and Pam Bondi, and they went through their investigation and said, listen, we did this investigation. This is what we did. We investigated the guards at the jail where Epstein was. We investigated the financials for their families and everything else. We found nothing. We went through it. We found this. We found that. But they didn't do that. In fact, they didn't do an investigation at all. Whatever conclusions they've released in this memo without a press conference is information that was gathered by the former administration, the Otto-Penn administration. How can you trust what's in those files? Why did they not open up their own investigation? I was shocked today. I was watching someone that I got a lot of respect for, Doug TenNapel, Doug in Exile. A lot of you guys probably know who he is. He's pretty well known. And he said 90% of you are going to disagree with me, but there's nothing to see here. I was in shock to hear that. When you are releasing information as the director and deputy director of the FBI and the Attorney General of the United States on such an important case and such a big matter, you launch your own investigation, and then you have a press conference revealing the results of your investigation, and then you take some questions. And they didn't do any of that. No press conference, no investigation. I mean, this blows my mind. How could you not have your own investigation? How could you just go by the files that are filled with information from the past administration and go through that? You're depending on information from the lawfare people. Chris Wray, you're going through files that are showing information that was written down and collected by the people who were involved in the lawfare against President Trump and were sending special agents in the school board parking lots writing down the license plates of parents going to their children's school board meetings. So I'm sorry, this stinks. Something's wrong here. Another thing about it is not only no press conference, no investigation, no going out there and saying, we did our investigation this way. There was no investigation. And then the timing of this. They released this late in the day on the Sunday after the 4th of July. The 4th of July is a national holiday, of course, but especially when it falls on a Friday. We only get it on Friday every 7 years, and that means the whole country is shut down for a 3-day weekend. Not a lot of news on 3-day weekends, although there was a lot of news over the 4th of July weekend because the president had a great rally on Thursday. The Big Beautiful Bill was passed. The president signed the Big Beautiful Bill on the 4th of July. We had that celebration. And then Elon went nuts and announced that he's forming this third party. There was news, but they released this without any investigation, without any press conference. They released this memorandum. And they did it on Sunday afternoon, which guarantees that it is going to be the major story in the news cycle on Monday morning in a fresh new news cycle. So also what Kash, Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi have done here is bent over backwards to release information and say, hey, there's nothing to see here. There never was. So why are they so interested in the ending this? From what they've released and from what they've said through this memorandum that they released, this is it. Case closed. Why would they close the case without an investigation and say, that's it? On this, of all things. What are they covering up? What are they hiding? Now, there's different schools of thought and there's different theories, and none of us know for sure. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, Trump had to sign off on this. No, he did not have to sign off on this. You know, the Justice Department, because it involves law enforcement investigations, the justice system, the top cops, presidents stay out of that. When presidents get involved in control over what the Justice Department look into and investigate, the FBI in particular, or the Attorney General in any way, all of a sudden you get an impeachment on your hands. You get a big scandal. So I would not agree that President Trump is happy with this. He brought Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in for very specific reasons. He has seen them for the last 4 years on television and online, defending him, attacking those in the lawfare movement against the president, talking a great deal about Epstein, both Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And when President Trump hired and appointed Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, what he was expecting is to have not one but two Tom Homans that would get to the bottom of all this. Another thing about how they've just put this to bed and said case closed, nothing to see here, nothing suspicious, no list. Out of everything that they could have gotten involved in, why have they spent such effort on this, closing this case and saying there's nothing to see here? You know, they were brought, now, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, the FBI has been doing a great job arresting regular criminals that they should. A huge chunk of the FBI has been involved in the deportations, taking down these Trinda guys and MS-13ers and all of that. And what in the press conference today, what Carolyn Levitt was getting into was a massive sting of pedos that they're after. That's all good stuff. But and I'm glad they're doing that, all of that. However, why are they rushing so fast, so quickly, with such urgency to shut down anything about Epstein? When there's so much lawfare that they should be looking into. I give you an example. I refer to it as low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of people involved in the lawfare against President Trump that are low-hanging fruit that they should be investigating, right? The first one I would look into, because I think it's the easiest case of all, is Fani Willis with the mortgage fraud allegations. Because if you look at that case, these allegations against her, here she is still out in parades with Zohan in New York on Pride Day, endorsing him and helping in his bid for governor. Are you kidding me? Those are federal crimes that she's being accused of. And the mortgage fraud that she's being accused of is what she went after Trump on in that weirdo judge's courtroom about the value of Mar-a-Lago. That's what she's been accused of doing with her own properties for years, which indicates that not only we know Trump did no wrong there, and that was a ridiculous case, but I find it interesting that she built a phony case against Trump going after him on crimes that she herself looks like, allegedly, according to the allegations, was committing herself. That's low-hanging fruit, because everything Letitia James did with the mortgage fraud is documented because it involves mortgages. Each one of those closings she did has her signature all over everything. How many times? Why haven't they gone after her on that? Some other low-hanging fruit is Judge Mershon. He's that New York judge in that fake criminal case that brought in those fake charges and fake convictions against President Trump. His daughter is a Democrat fundraiser who's a partner in a fundraising company. She raised, during the time of that trial, $100 million from Democrats, promising to put Trump in prison. And the only reason Mershon didn't put President Trump in prison is because he won the election. If Donald Trump did not win the election, Judge Mershon would have sentenced him to prison, and the president would be in prison right now. You know that, right? Why aren't they investigating that? Judge Mershon, it was widely reported, he left some seats open in his courtroom reserved for his daughter so she could bring clients in who were donating money. Why aren't they Why is Bongino and Kash Patel not looking into that and making arrests? They've had plenty of time. Fani Willis and her boy toy gigolo in Fulton County with that lawfare down there with those fake arrests where they got the mugshot. We know that they were colluding illegally with the White House because Fani Willis sent her gigolo boyfriend to D.C. On at least one occasion, maybe two, when he met with the White House counsel, the lawyer for the president. It was a coordination. So there's all these things that Kash Patel and Bongino could have gotten involved in. But what they chose to do was take this big story, big case, big issue to MAGA people that they've been telling us we're all right about for years, and they closed the case. Nothing to see here. No investigation. No list. No nothing. His death was not suspicious. I mean, this is insane. When they first did the interview with Bartiromo, a lot of people said, okay, listen. Hold on, let me have some water. I'm so upset my throat's dry. Okay. When they did that first interview, they said, give us time. But then they already had said, I've seen the tape. Nothing suspicious there. Really? It's not whether or not he took his own life. The question is, was a situation set up so he could do that? Meaning, were the guards paid off somehow so that they wouldn't be around and allow him the opportunity to do that? But they didn't even investigate it. They went over Chris Wray's information. Now, one of the questions I've been asking, are they posers, imposters, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino? Dan Bongino's been running around acting like he's this big cop and everything. We know he was briefly a NYPD officer. He was on Obama's protective detail with the Secret Service. But is he really the kind of cop like Tom Holman that kicks in doors and puts handcuffs on people or not? I haven't seen him do anything like that during the months that he's been the deputy director of the FBI. I thought for sure when the battle for Los Angeles was going on a few weeks ago, FBI got involved because federal agents were being attacked and everything. There was a press conference. Bongino and Kash Patel were nowhere to be seen. They had the local FBI agent in charge run the press conference. So are these two guys posers? And both of them have been screaming from the top of their lungs, not just on Bongino on his own podcast, but Kash Patel's been making the circuit on how many podcasts over the last 4 years talking about the Epstein files? And we got to get to the bottom of it. And then he releases this. Now, if you'd like to support my content, go to mypillow.com/Kane. That's Kane. An incredible deal, an exclusive special going on with mypillow.com/Kane, Kane, with my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. With any purchase, you get absolutely for free with God, all things are possible, multi-use MyPillow 2.0. That's with any purchase, by the way. If you go and buy those kitchen, not just the towels, but the washcloths, as low as $9.99, you get that with God, all things are possible, multi-use MyPillow 2.0 for free as well. And that pillow, it's a beautiful pillow with a great pillowcase with a great image on it and that wonderful passage from Matthew. If you were to buy that, it would cost you $39.98, just under $40. Pretty good, and you get it for free with any purchase with my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. So go to mypillow.com/Kane. That's mypillow.com/Kane, Kane. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane, Kane. All right, I'm going to take some calls before I get into more of the audio about this, but I'm pretty fed up with it. I'm pretty disgusted by it. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. It's Ryan from Jacksonville, Florida. How you doing?
All right, Ryan in Jacksonville. What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to say how great it was to have a 4th of July with President Trump back in the White House.
Yep.
It was seeing the flyover, the big beautiful bill signing. It just gave me goosebumps because I feel like America is back, and the America that we get pride in is coming back.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good thing.
I just wanted to get your I wanted to get your thoughts on that big beautiful bill. Like, do you think it's going to help us win the midterms?
Well, it has everything in it that President Trump wanted. Right? So everything President Trump promised is in it, and then some. So I don't see, and when people start seeing how much they're keeping of their paycheck that was being taken away, like the no tax on tips and such, they're going to be pretty excited. Absolutely. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. All right? Yeah. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'm going to go back to the phones in just a moment. I do want to hear your thoughts on this whole issue with the Epstein files, though. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is David in Royal Palm Beach.
Yep.
The thing about with Epstein, the only thing I can think of, if they killed him, is that the people behind it is a nation state, and they just can't afford to let that get out or something. Can't think of anything other than
well,
that.
a lot of people say he was an agent for some intelligence agency, and a lot of people. I saw Mark Dice today, and he, a lot of people say immediately Mossad because he's Jewish, you know. But I heard Megyn Kelly, who's on the inside, I think she's got good sources. She thinks that he was working for the CIA. And this would be my guess about Epstein, all right? He was a creepy guy who was doing creepy, terrible things. He got busted. And because of his Palm Beach contacts, because he was in that elite Palm Beach crowd, he was recruited by some intelligence agency and had been working for them. Absolutely. And that may very well be why they've covered this up. But do you agree that this is a cover-up or not? That there was nothing to see here, no list, no suspicious cause of death? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the reality is what Pam Bondi said in a direct statement, very sure of herself, that she had everything on her desk. It would be released once it was reviewed for, certain sensitive things, and it didn't happen. Bongino, sort of the same thing. Now, I think something did happen to them. For them to clam up that quickly and at the same time, it's just kind of weird to go from one position to the next. So there's something behind it, I believe.
Absolutely.
And hopefully they'll figure it out, and we'll finally find out. Even if the nation state tell us it is and don't tell us who or something, but let us know.
All right. Hey, listen, appreciate the call.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Yeah, if you're watching live, you can call in live. The number's pinned at the live chat. It's 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Peter from Virginia Beach, and I really enjoy your show.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's it?
My feelings?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you hung up. I thought you just were complimenting me and saying goodbye. All right. What's on your mind about all this?
No. No, I just, my feelings on this is Mr. Trump's attention is somewhere else. If you look at the 20 points of his platform to run, nowhere in it was releasing the files.
True.
There's a reason for this. It's to keep people on their toes. And that's my opinion.
Oh, you mean that? Oh, hold on. Let me clarify. So, are you saying that President Trump is using the Epstein files against people?
I think that it's sort of a form of leverage. I really do. I mean, to have that boat anchor hanging over your head tends to keep people in check. Just remember, too, there's a lot of forces that are against it.
Well, this Epstein tape they have of the cell. You see where he was last at is missing a minute of footage. It's like the Nixon tapes.
Yeah,
Why is a minute of the footage missing?
I cannot answer that question. It is a fact, and there was boxes of evidence down from the island. I mean, it's all out there. We know.
I don't think Trump is blackmailing people. I don't think.
No, I never said that.
Well, you said if he's using the information, that's what it is. I mean, if he's using the information against people, that's what it is. It's extortion, is what you're saying. I don't think Trump would do that.
No, I wouldn't call it extortion. Extortion to me is when you leverage somebody, for bribery or money. Money to me means extortion.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. I love your show.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Very much for what you do.
All right. Well, take care. Thanks for calling. All right. So I'll play Carolyn Levitt again, and then I want to go through some of the audio sound bites. If you're on hold, hang in there. And again, if you'd like to call in, I'm certainly welcome to hear all of your thoughts on this at 888-465-2631. I played this at the beginning of the stream, but people have joined since the beginning. I was waiting for this press conference all day because I knew it would come up. A reporter asked Carolyn Levitt, who I'm not familiar with, about the Epstein list, and then Ducey from Fox News chimes in. Okay, so that was the press conference today. Now, we just got some breaking news that just dropped about this. Judge Joe Brown. And this follows up to the last call from Virginia. So maybe he heard this right before he called. I don't know, because this just dropped a few minutes ago. So this backs up what the caller from Virginia said. Judge Joe Brown. I think most of you are familiar with Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown was on with Alex Jones a little earlier, and Judge Joe Brown believes that the president is using the Epstein files to blackmail the deep state to surrender. Now, isn't that something? That's a little different. Okay, what the caller from Virginia was saying was a little vague, but now you throw that in. What do you guys think about that? Judge Joe Brown, Judge Joe Brown knows a lot of these people, right? So when Judge Joe Brown says something, he's just not making stuff up. He's talking to people that are in the know, and this is where he's getting that from. So Judge Joe Brown told Alex Jones that Trump is using the Epstein information to blackmail the deep state to surrender. Now that I would believe. What do you guys think about that? All right, let's take some more calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once. Twice. All right. You missed your chance. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, it's Jack. You'll have to forgive the background noise. I am in the process of cooking dinner.
You got to speak closer to the phone. I can't really hear you. You're too far away from your speakerphone.
Is this any better?
A little better, yeah.
Okay. Well, for one,
Well, hold on. While I'm doing that, let me answer all these other phone lines that are coming in. All right, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to ask you why you were calling me a Holocaust denier yesterday.
I don't remember the call.
Smart guy, you know that.
No, I don't remember the call. No, I don't. So there was something I had vague recollection of saying that to someone. It may have been you, but it's not open phones. I'm talking about something else, so I'm not interested in talking about yesterday's show.
Well, then let's get back on subject then. Tell you what, let me say something about that. I think that you and the rest of the Republican Party are really looking pretty bad right now. Specifically because you've gotten rid of it. You've gotten rid of any of the evidence that shows that Donald Trump is on the Epstein list.
No, and the thing with you is when you say the Republicans are in trouble, you always think the Republicans are in trouble. So your opinions about Republicans they're always in trouble and always wrong, and they're not really valid opinions that I'm interested in. Get back to cooking your dinner, Jack. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? A little early to be cooking dinner. Yeah, go ahead.
Joseph Hernandez.
Okay.
I'm from Rockport, Texas.
All right, Joe in Texas.
Yeah, so I kind of got off the video earlier. We're still talking about Epstein?
Correct.
Yeah, so I think exactly what Joe Brown was talking about, that it most likely is like a blackmail, kind of like what the other guy came on here.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I really believe that. It's like what Hillary Clinton said, never let a good crisis go to waste, and I believe that the Democrats are in a crisis right now, and he's using that against them right now. That's just my point of view.
No, now that would make sense because, the lawfare against President Trump is deep, deep, deep. And there was a story that came out a couple days ago about the CIA and things they were involved in that Radcliffe released. So I could see him using this information to bring down the deep state. Absolutely. Yeah. If somebody said that other than Joe Brown, like if it was just some random person, depending on who it was, I wouldn't take it. But Joe Brown's a smart guy who's in the know with a lot of connections. Yeah. So he's a credible person.
Yep. And the question is, how far can Trump go with this without it becoming like an illegal thing later on? It's going to bite him in the ass later. So.
I don't know. I mean, any type of extortion is illegal. Right, pretty much, isn't it? So, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily. Depends on how he did it. I don't think he's breaking the law, But you can hold things over people's heads without blackmailing them. Just them knowing you have something and without even communicating with them could do the trick. Hey, listen, appreciate the call. Thanks so much for your call. I've gotten some good thoughts on this so far on the lines. I appreciate it. Good calls for the most part. That guy Jack, I don't know about that. You're on the air. What's your name? Oh, hold on. The phones are ringing off the hook, guys. So hold on. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Job for 9. I'm calling from California. I listen to your morning show all the time.
Oh, thanks.
I'm so happy that you decided to do the podcast when I'm taking phone calls. I work in a law enforcement capacity. I'm not a law enforcement officer, but I do work within those realms. And in regards to Epstein, when he came up no longer alive, supposedly or reported, I knew that there was something very, very fishy. There's certain things that have to be done, especially in regards to equipment. There has to be work notices if there's something not working. There has to be a sergeant that comes by and ends up signing logs every 8 hours, and that is in addition.
Especially on such a high-profile prisoner.
Yes, exactly. Then there also has to be checks every 15 minutes. Those have to be signed because people actually walk those floors, and they have to have verification that those tasks were done.
Well, with someone like, this video of his cell that has a minute missing from the video, which is readily available. I retweeted it myself on X, Brian Craig Show, but it's all over. When you have someone that's a high-profile prisoner like this, it's not an every 15-minute check. You should have somebody in a chair in front of the cell watching 24 hours a day, right?
If they're on a different facilities run things differently depending upon capacity, the availability for individuals. Some have psych units.
Yeah, but when you have the most wanted fugitive in America in your custody, you take things to a different level.
They would have to be observation, either one-on-one or definitely cameras, somebody sitting in front of that screen 24 hours, and they have to end up verifying.
So what do you think's going on here with Kash, Patel, Bongino, and Pam Bondi?
Well, one last quick point. If you look in that individual cell, there's no way that they're going to end up giving somebody who was so recently on a suicide watch a CPAP machine, which actually ends up having a cord. If you also look in that cell, you're going to see tons and tons of material that could be utilized as a noose. That's another additional red flag. Way too much material, whether it's clothing, whether it's sheets, whether it's this or that. Just way too much. And then also the autopsy, I remember seeing that. There were just a whole bunch of questions that were never really answered.
That's right.
In regards to Kash and in regards, especially into Bongino, I was listening to Bongino for an extensive amount of time, especially when it came to the Russia thing. And I was listening to him when he started talking about the Epstein issue. And he himself was being given information that he didn't necessarily disclose, but he did tell his viewers there's more going on. To have him, change, he has to have a reason. And a lot of time we don't know what those reasons are. I pray that those reasons are fundamentally enough. They all know that we're not taking these reasons they're giving us.
That's true. Well, I do. I think. That. Listen, I appreciate the call, and thanks for calling. I appreciate it, and great call. All right.
God bless you. You're doing great work. Thanks.
All right, and you've added to the conversation. Call us on hold. Stand by. Thinking more about this with what Judge Joe Brown said. Judge Joe Brown told Alex Jones earlier, and this is breaking. So this is new. Judge Joe Brown says he believes that Trump is using the Epstein files to bring down the deep state. Well, what about this? President Trump's, one of his biggest accomplishments of his great second term just happened on Friday. He signed the big, beautiful bill into law. The big, beautiful bill was passed on Thursday. And it wasn't easy to get through. There's a lot of talk and controversy about it. Do you think release? It's an interesting thing how things develop. And as things develop, you start putting some pieces together and start thinking about it. This memo from the FBI saying nothing to see here, no list, and all of that on the Epstein files, case closed. Did this help Trump get the big, beautiful bill passed? Was this a compromise that President Trump made to get the big, beautiful bill passed? What are your thoughts on that? 888 465-2631. Before I go back to the phones, I'd like to say if you would like to support my channel and all of the content I bring you, become a Patreon supporter. Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of each and every one of my podcast episodes. Plus, I post a lot of content on my Patreon page, including vlogs and other videos that I post nowhere else. There's a link to my Patreon page in the description of the video. The direct link is patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow, patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow, but the direct link is in the description of the video. If you're a top Patreon supporter, you get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode, and you get your name up on screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the names up there. I want to thank all of my top Patreon supporters: SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, David, Laura, Rob, Tina, and Wes. And we got a brand new top Patreon supporter. I want to make sure I get this name correct. Yeah, Sue is also a top Patreon supporter, our newest. And Sue, I'll be adding your name to the graphic on the screen as well. These are my top Patreon supporters. Thank you all for your support. And again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of the video. All right, so we'll go back to the phone. So now we're getting some interesting new information and thoughts on everything that's going on. If you're watching live, you can call me. The number is pinned in the live chat, 1-888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are watching. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Mark and I am from Plantation area.
Okay.
So I got two things I want to bring up about the whole Epstein thing. I think you're correct that there's probably more to the background of this than we're probably going to ever see. I also want to bring up one of the Democrats that called you said, well, they're in trouble because they're hiding information. And I'm like, Biden had this information for 4+ years. Why didn't he bring it out when they were trying to burn him down?
Yeah.
I'm going to hypothesize there's some people on both sides of the party that fall into this camp, and it may be detrimental to both sides, and they just don't want to speak
Well,
out.
you know what when you were on hold, you may not have heard this when you're on hold. You know, Judge Joe Brown said he believes Trump may be using the Epstein files to bring down the deep state, and then I was starting to think, is this release from the FBI? No suspicious cause of death, no list, case closed from the FBI. Is that something that Trump gave to get the big beautiful bill passed to some of these powerful people in Washington? All right, if you know what I'm saying?
True. Yeah, I think you're probably right on that, and that might be another one of the things. The one thing I'm going to be interested to see, because one of my friends called that Elon would leave, he says Pam Bondi might be the next one to leave the Trump circle. And I'm curious if this may cause a schism with her.
Well, no, if Trump did this, if Trump said, hey, vote for the big beautiful bill and we're going to end this Epstein stuff that a lot of you have been worried about in D.C., that means that Kash, Patel, Bongino, and Pam Bondi did what Trump wanted.
Yep.
If that's true.
Well, yeah, I think you're right, and I think the information being suppressed, if there is any, and the reality is we don't know what happened to him. I know the joke is, oh, he didn't kill himself.
There's a minute of video missing from the jail cell video. It's like 10 hours long. So what's that about?
And to be fair, I'm not a big fan of trusting the government, no matter who's in all the time either.
No.
But who knows? But I appreciate your time, sir.
Well, thank you for the call. Great calls. We have great calls on the program here. Appreciate it. All right, let's go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm calling from Kentucky.
All right, speak up, Kentucky.
Sorry, I'm closer to my Alexa now. Can you hear it?
I can hear you. Go ahead. What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
I was just wondering, who do you think was powerful enough to like deleted that footage? That minute-long missing footage?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean,
That's
that
what I'm
happened.
wondering.
That happened during the Autopin presidency. So who
That
knows?
happened when?
The Autopin
That-
presidency, the Biden time.
Who was president when Epstein was
It was.
Biden
It was.
president when
I
Epstein
don't.
died?
It was Biden, wasn't it?
Was Biden president when Epstein died? I think it was Trump when Epstein died.
I don't know who would be powerful enough. I don't know. The FBI.
Yeah, that's really good to me. And I heard the Judge Joe Brown thing, but is blackmail illegal? And more importantly, what about is that more important than the safety of our children and our women?
What are you talking
like,
about?
right now?
What do you mean?
Because you said Judge Joe Brown said that Trump might be using this for blackmail on the deep state. If he's using it for blackmail on the deep state instead of giving it to us and letting us know about
Well, no, you don't. You don't have to go and
children.
someone knowing you have information is enough to get them to behave. So it's not necessarily blackmail.
So why is he refusing to release it then?
To release what?
I guess I'm missing the.
Well, you said something about protecting our women and children. I'm not sure what that reference meant.
Yeah. Well, because of the sex offenders that are on this list that are free and roaming around.
Yeah,
That are still free.
that's true. Yeah.
And they're able, without them being sentenced, without them being like prosecuted for their crimes, they're on the loose. And isn't it more important?
No,
to
no.
get
You
them
make
off
a
the
you make
street
a you make
than
a
to
you make a
blackmail?
you make a good point there about these. Yeah, these creeps that are still roaming free. All right, hey, appreciate the call. All right, from Kentucky. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening, Brian. This is Nick out of Baltimore.
Hey, Nick. What's up?
Well, thank you for the podcast. I had my device volume turned down, so I don't know exactly right to the minute what you're talking about. But to your point about Judge Joe Brown, that's very interesting, and I really I can see that. The point I want to make is we all want to see arrests and we all want to see action taken, but also just stay focused on the president and what he's doing in his priority list. And if you go down that list, if you go on to the Trump-Vance agenda thing, you see all the things that he's talked about, campaigned on, and he's in fact accomplished. This will be taken care of, and also we're not privy to what Kash, Patel, Pam Bondi, and Dan Bongino have. The information they may have just put something out there.
Well,
Just
when
to
the
divert
thing
the
is when Jeffrey Epstein died, it was towards the end of the, it was in Trump's president. It was in I think it was in 2019, wasn't it, when he died?
Right. Yeah,
So,
I think it was.
but you got to understand something. The deep state and the bureaucracy, and the people that were involved with Epstein are so rich and so powerful. These are the kinds of people that can pull strings and hire people or pay people off to make things happen.
Right.
I don't believe there was a hitman sent there. But I believe that if there was something suspicious happened, they set up a situation where he could do it when he shouldn't have. And what I started with at the beginning, hold on, Nick, because I'm answering all these phone lines as we're talking. What I talked about at the beginning of the stream here was this. If Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi had a press conference and said, hey, listen, we had an investigation, and this is what we did, and this is what we found, and walked us through it, that'd be something. But they just released this memorandum, a memo. But what I was talking about while you were on hold, and this adds on to what Judge Joe Brown said. The timing of this release seems so crazy to me. Is it at all possible that Trump made a deal with power brokers to end the whole Epstein affair in exchange for getting the big, beautiful bill passed? Is that possible?
Well, that's That's possible. Yeah, anything's possible.
Is it, well, is it likely?
Yeah,
Is it likely?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I can say yes or no. I'm gonna go along with the fact that Trump, President Trump, is a deal maker, but he's also a very brilliant man.
Oh, that's
he's
for
the
sure.
best president. Yeah, he's the best president in my lifetime, and I'm 68 years old, and I remember as a little kid, I remember John F. Kennedy, and nothing before that. I don't remember anything before that. But the point is that besides Kennedy, he's the only president, maybe Reagan, President Reagan, who really have cared about the country and
Well, we have some breaking news from the president,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm going to share. So tune in. And I appreciate the call, Nick, and I'm going to go over it now. This is huge. The president just dropped this on Truth Social. Listen to this. This is the president on Truth Social. The FBI, under the direction of Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is back to the basics, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case. And now that they have been unleashed to do their jobs, and they are going to be doing just that. Keep it up. Make America safe again. That's the president on Truth Social. So what does that mean? And to have this statement out right after what happened tells us that what? Kash and Bongino, they're in the good graces of Trump. So, and Trump knows everything about everything that's going on here, much more than any of us will ever know. So that, to me, sounds like whatever happened here was with the blessing of the president. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing? I'm Luis. I'm calling from Florida.
All right. Luis in Florida. What's up?
I just got a question. I want to know if you think the states should make the laws more in relation to science or more in relation to religion.
Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, so I'm not going to comment on that. We're talking about some other things right now. This isn't just random stream of thought, but every Friday I have open phones. You can call me on Friday when it's open phones, and we'll get into that. All right? But thanks for the call. And I want to just say every Friday I do open phones, which means on Friday's show I call it Open MAGA Mike Friday. You can call me about anything and everything on your mind. You don't even have to comment on the things I bring up that day. But Monday through Thursday, you got to talk about the things I bring up, okay? And this is a big, important story. Now, this post on True Social from the president, you got to say, hey, wait a minute. Because, I'm of the belief that we have to follow the president's lead no matter what, that he should not be questioned. I think he's suffered and paid incredible prices over the last 4 years, including almost a year ago now when the Never Trumpers shot him in Butler. And you've got to trust in Trump, and he sees the big picture. So this is Trump praising Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, going out of his way to praise them. So that's something that we have to take into consideration. And if Trump says they're good, as far as I'm concerned. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Once, twice. All right. You missed your opportunity. The rest of you on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, please do. If you're watching live, the toll-free number to call in is pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. Now, before I go back to the phones, if you are 65 years of age or you're turning 65 soon or over 65 and you need help with your Medicare, you want to call Chapter. Chapter, no matter which one of the 50 states you're in, can help you with your Medicare. It's completely free. When you call, you're going to get a live person who, for free, is going to answer all of your Medicare questions. Okay? Make sure that your doctors are covered, your specialists are covered, your prescription medications are covered. They'll make sure that if you have a supplement, that you really need that supplement. And if you need a supplement, is that the right one? Are you paying too much for it? You know, Chapter, because they work in all 50 states, they have access to all of the over 24,000 Medicare policies there are. And that means they have access to everything. So they'll make sure that you have the right policy for you. You know, if you don't have the right Medicare policy, it can cost you thousands of dollars each and every year. That's right. Give them a call. Now, the number for Chapter is in the description of the video. I'm going to give it to you now, but if you missed the number, it's in the description of the video. Again, it's completely free, and they can help you with your Medicare no matter which state you are in. 805-754-3033. 805-754-3033. You're on the air. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Yeah, I was calling about the show.
Okay.
With Pam Bondi and the Epstein list and all that. And I think that there's a lot more to the story that they're not talking about. They can't talk about.
Well, what they have said is case closed. It's over. The FBI has closed the case. Kash, Patel, and Dan Bongino have closed the case. It's over. And will no longer be pursued. And while you were calling, you may have missed this because you were calling in, President Trump just posted on True Social a message praising Kash Patel and Dan Bongino for their great work. So that's after all this has been out.
Okay, then I stand corrected. It's developing now, obviously.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right now, more and more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Hey, okay. All right. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about that, though? You know, I was talking a little while ago. Did President Trump use this to close the case to get the big, beautiful bill passed?
Okay. That's a thought. But if you've been watching also, and I know you watch, because I watch your show all the time, so I know you know what's going on. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming out about the Russia collusion. And
well, our suspicions are being proven because Radcliffe, who's the CIA director now, has been releasing information that Brennan and others, Brennan, who was the CIA director, by the way, for Obama, that they crafted the whole Russia collusion thing to try to stop Trump from becoming president. Yeah, and that they lied to Congress about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as you're well aware, all roads go to Obama. So this is going to bring out, it's going to go right to the head of the snake. And all those people on the Epstein list are pretty much, not every, but a lot of them are right there involved in all the Russian collusion and the Clapper, Brennan. I'm talking about, they're just the puppets, those guys.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are really pulling the strings at the top, I'm talking.
Yep. All right, you made some good points.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, I appreciate the call. You're making some good points.
Two different cases are going to take you to the same people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the deep state. The deep state's not as big as people think. There's a small ruling elite that have been ruling the country for probably 200 years, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why I was calling. I think that they've kind of, I don't know. You brought up a lot to think about. I mean, he might have made a deal about the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, he have.
He might have had to.
Mm-hmm.
But you let that go and you pursue how they overthrew the government. You know about this.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2000. And Clapper, Brennan, all those people are involved. Obama, Clinton's, all of them are involved. And if you pursue that, you're going to pretty much go to the same people at the very, very top.
That's right. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. You made some good points.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, take care. All right, let me take a... Oh, he was just complimenting the show as I was hanging up. But thank you for your compliment. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Chris from Kentucky again.
Chris, it's one call. It's one call per show. It's one call per show. One call per show.
I just had one or two more questions.
No, it's one call per show. You call another day. All right, take care. Now, I want to tell you, this has been a really interesting program, right? Great calls for the most part. But look at what's happened. We look where we came, where we started at the beginning and where we ended up. And, you know, between Joe Brown, this post on Truth from the president and everything else, and it seems there may be something completely different in play than we thought an hour ago, right? This is amazing. This has been a great conversation. You know, if you're new to my channel here on YouTube, my name is Brian Craig. I host a morning radio show on a whole bunch of radio stations. And when I'm on the radio in the mornings and morning drive, I stream on YouTube, and I'm always taking live calls. I also upload the Brian Craig Show podcast here live on my channel, which is on every podcast platform as well, the Brian Craig Show podcast. So if you're new, this is without question where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure that you subscribe, all right? And if you're already subscribed, if you could do me the favor of liking the video and sharing on your socials, that would be great too. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.